Captain Frank Miller stood alone on the observation deck, staring at the strange planet below. Its purple oceans and red landmasses made it look alien, even after his 15 years in space. "Captain, you should see this," said Dr. Olivia Russell's voice through his communicator. Her tone made his heart beat faster. Miller hurried through the corridors of the ship. Crew members stepped aside as he passed. When he reached the surface team's camp, Russell was waiting outside a cave entrance. "We found something," she said simply. Inside, portable lights illuminated walls covered with symbols. They didn't look natural. They looked made. "It's a door," explained Russell, "and we think we can open it." 2 engineers worked on a section of the wall. With a grinding noise, a portion slid away, revealing darkness beyond. The team exchanged nervous glances before stepping through. The chamber inside was massive. Rows of crystal columns reached toward a ceiling too high to see. Each column glowed with a soft blue light. "This technology is incredible," whispered Russell. "These crystals appear to be some kind of data storage. They're still active after what must be thousands of years." Miller approached one of the columns. As his hand neared it, images appeared in the air before him. He jumped back in surprise. "It's responding to your presence," said Russell, eyes wide with excitement. The images sharpened. They showed humanoid figures fleeing from others with tentacle-like appendages where arms should be. The scene shifted to stars. A journey, then a small blue planet. "Earth," Miller breathed. Russell moved to another column. More images appeared. The tentacled beings in what looked like a council chamber, arguing. "I think I can connect our translation software," she said. Minutes later, words began to appear alongside the images. "The prey escaped to the 3rd planet. Too primitive to follow. Not worth the resources. Leave them to die naturally." Miller felt cold. "They're talking about humans. Our ancestors." Russell nodded slowly. "According to this, we didn't evolve on Earth. We fled there. We were refugees." They spent hours moving from column to column, piecing together the story. A powerful species called the Kaldare had tried to exterminate their kind. A small group escaped to Earth. The Kaldare decided not to follow, believing humans too primitive to ever pose a threat. In one projection, a Kaldare leader spoke directly to the camera. Russell's software translated. "Let them hide. Those Deathbringers, those Cosmic Reapers, on their new world, they will either die or forget what they are. The Kaldare Coalition expands elsewhere, toward richer territories." "They feared us," Miller said. "Why would they call us Reapers?" In another column, they found more recent data. The Kaldare still existed. Their territory had expanded over thousands of years, and they were moving toward Earth's sector of space again. "We need to take this information back," said Miller. "If the Kaldare discover how far we've advanced, they might finish what they started." Russell finished. As they prepared to leave, Miller found one final recording. A Kaldare scientist spoke urgently. "The humans must never be allowed to remember their nature. They appear peaceful now, but we know their true essence. When threatened, they become something else. They transform. In all our explorations, we have never encountered a species with their adaptability, their relentlessness. If they ever reach the stars again, the galaxy will learn why we called them Reapers." Back on the ship, Miller sent an urgent message to Earth Command. The response came quickly. "Return immediately. Tell no one what you found." As the ship broke orbit, Miller looked once more at the planet below. For thousands of years, humanity had wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they knew the truth. They weren't alone, and they weren't welcome. Ambassador William Carter adjusted his formal uniform as the transport shuttle approached the Kaldare space station. 6 months had passed since Captain Miller's discovery, and Earth's government had decided to attempt diplomatic contact rather than wait for rediscovery. "Remember the protocols," Carter told his small team. "No sudden movements. Speak only when addressed directly." The shuttle docked with a soft thud. Carter led his team through the airlock into a chamber filled with purplish light. 3 cold air representatives waited, their tentacle arms moving slowly. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, with smooth gray skin and large, multi-lidded eyes. "I bring greetings from Earth," Carter said, bowing slightly. The central Coldar's tentacles twitched. When it spoke, its voice came through the translator as flat and mechanical. "Humans, from Earth. This is unexpected." Carter noticed the beings exchanging looks. Were they surprised? Concerned? It was hard to read their alien expressions. "We discovered records of past contact between our species," Carter explained. "We wish to establish peaceful relations." "Yes, of course," the Cold Air leader said. "I am Overseer Vexter. Follow us to the meeting chamber." As they walked through the station, Carter observed everything. The technology was advanced but not incomprehensible. Earth's ships were smaller, but not primitive by comparison. In the meeting chamber, Vexter questioned Carter about human advancement. How many planets had they colonized? What was their military capacity? What technologies had they mastered? Carter answered carefully, neither exaggerating nor diminishing Earth's capabilities. He noticed the cold air seemed increasingly agitated. "You have progressed quickly for a young species," Vexter said. "We are curious by nature," Carter replied, "and adaptable." At the word adaptable, the cold air aides shifted uncomfortably. Later, as the humans were shown to their quarters, Lieutenant Grace Murphy pulled Carter aside. "Sir, something's not right. I've been monitoring their internal communications with our passive scanner. They keep using a phrase that translates as the awakened threat." Carter frowned. "Keep listening. I'm going to join their dinner invitation. Learn what you can." At dinner, Carter noticed how the cold air treated representatives from other species. The aliens, small furry beings called the Trell, were clearly subservient, bringing food but never speaking. "Your Trell assistants," Carter said carefully. "Are they members of your coalition?" "The Trell serve the cold air," Vexter said, "as do many species who benefit from our guidance." Guidance. Lesser species require direction. The strong lead. The weak follow. This is the natural order. Carter kept his expression neutral despite his growing concern. Earth believes in self-determination for all. Vexter's tentacles coiled tightly. A naive philosophy. One you would abandon if you understood galactic realities. After dinner, Carter returned to find Murphy waiting with urgent news. "Ambassador, they're planning something. I intercepted military communications. They've deployed warships to the edge of our colonial territory. They're preparing for a preemptive containment action." Carter's blood ran cold. "They're going to attack our colonies before we can establish defenses." "There's more," Murphy said. "I accessed their historical database. The archives Captain Miller found were incomplete. The cold air have been manipulating species throughout the galaxy for millennia. Those who resist are eliminated." Carter immediately sent an encrypted message to Earth. "Diplomatic efforts continuing, but prepare for conflict." Coldar society built on domination. They view independent species as threats. Evidence suggests imminent military action against our colonies. That night, Carter stood at the viewport, watching Coldar ships moving through the station's docking bays. Earth had hoped for peaceful contact, for allies among the stars. Instead, they had found the same ancient enemy, still determined to control or destroy them. "We should have stayed hidden a little longer," he whispered to himself. "But it's too late now." Commander Daniel Hayes stared at the tactical display as red warning lights flashed across the colony defense grid. The cold air attack had come without warning, just 3 days after Ambassador Carter's urgent message. "Status report." Hayes shouted over the chaos of the command center. "Titan Colony is under heavy bombardment," replied his communications officer. "New Eden reports ground forces landing. We've lost contact with Horizon Station completely." Hayes gripped the edge of the console. Thousands of colonists lived on those outposts. Families, children. The Kaldar hadn't even issued demands before attacking. Deploy all available ships to evacuation points, he ordered. Priority is civilian rescue. Earth's defense fleet was outnumbered 4-1. The Kaldar vessels were larger, with more powerful weapons, but as the battle unfolded, Hayes noticed something unexpected. Their formations are rigid, he said to his tactical officer. They're not adapting to our movements. The Earth ships were smaller but faster. When Hayes ordered them to break formation and attack from multiple vectors, the Kaldar response was slow and predictable. They fight like they've never faced real resistance, Hayes realized. They expect us to retreat. Hayes directed his forces to target the Kaldar command ships specifically. The alien vessels had better shields, but Earth's weapons found vulnerabilities at their engine sections. At New Eden Colony, the situation was desperate. Kaldar ground troops moved in perfect lines toward the main settlement. They carried energy weapons that cut through the colony's defenses easily. But the colonists fought back with unexpected tactics. Instead of defending fixed positions, they used the mining tunnels to appear behind enemy lines, strike, and disappear. The Kaldar soldiers, confused by the unpredictable attacks, began firing at shadows. On the research station orbiting Jupiter, Dr. Elaine Foster made a critical discovery when studying captured Kaldar technology. Their systems are advanced but inflexible, she reported to Earth Command. They haven't significantly improved their designs in centuries. They've had no need to innovate. This information reached Admiral Lisa Bradley as she prepared Earth's counterattack. The Kaldar expect us to be primitive, she told her ship commanders. Their arrogance is their weakness. Bradley devised a strategy that seemed like madness on paper. She ordered her small fleet to charge directly at the main Kaldar battle group. When the aliens formed their standard response pattern, Bradley's ships suddenly cut engines and drifted, appearing disabled. The Kaldar moved in for the kill, breaking their careful formation. At that moment, Bradley's ships powered up again, darting between the larger alien vessels. In the close-quarters chaos, the Earth ships targeted junction points identified in Dr. Foster's analysis. They're retreating, shouted Bradley's sensor officer as the Kaldar fleet suddenly reversed course. Similar reports came in from other battle zones. At New Eden, the colonists had captured a Kaldar commander. On Titan, the defense grid had been reconfigured to exploit a weakness in Kaldar shields. The human victories were costly. 3 colonies destroyed, thousands dead. But the Kaldar had expected to crush all resistance in their first strike. Instead, they had been forced back. In the aftermath, Commander Hayes walked through a damaged section of his ship. Emergency repairs were underway, crew members working tirelessly despite their injuries. Why did they retreat? Asked his second-in-command. They still outnumbered us. Because we surprised them, Hayes replied. The archives Captain Miller found mentioned the Kaldar feared what humanity might become. Now they're facing what we already are. Across the solar system, Earth forces regrouped and prepared. The Kaldar would return with greater numbers. But humanity now knew they could fight back. They could win. And somewhere in deep space, the Kaldar fleet commander was sending an urgent message to his superiors. The Reapers have awakened. They are more dangerous than our ancestors feared. General Peter Martinez surveyed the massive underground facility where Earth's war effort had mobilized. 3 months had passed since the first Kaldar attack. The aliens had expected a quick victory. Instead, they had awakened humanity's ancient talent for warfare. "Show me the production numbers," Martinez said to his aide. "We've converted 78% of our orbital factories to military production," she replied. "Shipyards are launching new vessels weekly." Martinez nodded with grim satisfaction. Humanity had been exploring space peacefully for decades. Now they prepared for a fight they hadn't started but were determined to finish. In the research division, scientists Kate Johnson and Alan Phillips worked tirelessly on captured Kaldar technology. Their lab was filled with disassembled alien devices and holographic diagrams. Their weapons are powerful but predictable, Johnson explained to a group of engineers. They haven't significantly improved them in centuries. Phillips demonstrated a modified version of a cold air energy cannon. We've reconfigured their own technology to be more efficient. They never considered these applications. The engineers watched as the weapon fired a concentrated beam that used 30% less energy than the original design but delivered greater impact. The cold air stopped innovating because they had no real competition, Phillips said. That's about to cost them dearly. In orbit, training exercises ran constantly as new recruits learned to pilot the rapidly expanding fleet. What the human ships lacked in size, they made up for in speed and adaptability. Each vessel incorporated innovations born from studying Koldar weaknesses. They expect us to fight conventionally, Captain Susan Ward told her squadron. We won't. Hit and run. Unpredictable patterns. Never engage where they expect us. Earth forces began striking back, not by challenging the cold air battle fleets directly, but by targeting their supply lines and communication relays. Human ships would appear from hiding, attack vulnerable targets, and vanish before the cold air could respond. After each successful raid, they left a simple message in cold air language. The Reapers remember. Reports from captured cold air ships revealed the growing fear among their forces. Their commanders couldn't predict where humans would strike next. Their soldiers described the human attacks as like fighting shadows. News traveled through the Cold Air Coalition. Other subjugated species heard whispers about the creatures who fought back, who refused to submit to Cold Air authority. Small rebellions began on distant worlds. 6 months into the war, Martinez received intelligence that changed everything. A Cold Air prisoner had revealed the location of a major supply depot near the edge of their territory. It's likely a trap, Martinez told his war council. They know we've been targeting their supply lines. Then we give them what they expect, replied Admiral Bradley. A small force attacks exactly where they think we will. Meanwhile, our main fleet hits their actual command center in the Proxima sector. The plan worked perfectly. While the Cold Air waited for a raid on their decoy target, Earth's main battle group struck at the heart of their regional command. The attack crippled the Cold Air's ability to coordinate their forces across an entire sector. In the aftermath, Johnson and Phillips completed their most important project, a device that could detect Cold Air ships at much greater distances than previously possible. With this, we'll never be caught off guard again, Johnson said as the system came online. News arrived from the frontier. A Cold Air world called Vex Prime had experienced an uprising among its subjugated population. The rebels were using tactics similar to those employed by humans. They're watching us, Martinez said, learning from us. Earth had entered the galactic stage not as explorers or diplomats, but as warriors. The role had been forced upon them, but they adopted it with the same adaptability that had alarmed the Cold Air thousands of years before. Humanity wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting for freedom, their own, and perhaps, eventually, for others. Captain Eric Walsh guided his ship, the Vengeance, through the debris field of a destroyed Cold Air patrol fleet. His mission was to investigate unusual energy readings in this sector, far from established battle lines. Something's out there, his sensor officer reported, moving toward us, but not matching any Cold Air design. Walsh tensed. Battle stations, but hold fire unless I give the order. A ship emerged from behind a large asteroid. It was sleek, with blue-green hull plating and unusual wing-like projections. It made no aggressive moves. They're transmitting a message, the communications officer said, sounding surprised. In our language. Put it through, Walsh ordered. Human vessel, came a melodic voice. We are Nithari. We fight the same enemy. We would speak with you. The Nithari were tall, with iridescent skin and 4 arms. Their representative, Speaker Kala, explained their history as they met aboard a neutral station. The Cold Air conquered our worlds 3 centuries ago, Kala said. We served them, mine resources for them, But secretly we have built ships and weapons. When we heard about humans fighting back, we knew the time had come. Walsh saw an opportunity. Your people aren't the only ones suffering under Cold Air rule. Together, we might accomplish more than either of us could alone. Within weeks, diplomat Samantha Nelson arrived to formalize an alliance with the Nithari. She brought with her evidence of other species beginning to resist Cold Air control. The Cold Air rule through fear and division. Nelson told a gathering of representatives from 5 different species. They keep subjugated worlds isolated from each other. But now we're changing that. Under Earth's leadership, the Alliance adopted humanity's unconventional tactics. The Nithari contributed their knowledge of Cold Air patrol routes. The insectoid Vril shared their expertise in subspace communications. The reptilian Orcs provided hidden bases within their dense jumble worlds. Dr. Benjamin Clark led the effort to create a communication system that would unite the diverse Alliance forces. The challenge isn't just language, Clark explained to his team. It's that each species processes information differently. The Vril think in collective patterns. The Nithari perceive time non-linearly. Clark's solution was revolutionary. A neural interface that translated not just words but concepts and intentions. When completed, it allowed perfect coordination between ships and ground forces of all species. The Cold Air weren't prepared for the sudden cooperation between formerly isolated resistance groups. Their supply convoys were ambushed by combined fleets. Their garrison worlds faced simultaneous uprisings. On the Cold Air homeworld, reports of defeats caused political turmoil. For the first time in millennia, the ruling council faced criticism. These losses are unacceptable, High Overseer Mexter told his military commanders. How can primitives and slaves coordinate such effective attacks? The humans, replied Fleet Commander Sexter. They share knowledge freely with other species. They adapt our technology in ways we never considered. And they'd fight differently. Explain, demanded the High Overseer. We fight to dominate, to establish order. Humans fight for freedom, theirs and others. It makes them unpredictable and dangerous. The Alliance continued to grow. Each victory brought new species into the fold. Nelson established principles that all member worlds agreed to: mutual defense, technological sharing, and the right of self-determination for all sentient beings. When a Cold Air battle group attempted to recapture a liberated Nithari colony, they found themselves caught between human ships and Vril fighters. The battle ended in another defeat for the once invincible Cold Air forces. Walsh, commanding one of the human vessels, received a transmission from a Nithari captain after the battle. The Cold Air called humans reapers as a warning, the Nithari said. But perhaps they misunderstood. You do not reap life. You reap oppression. Walsh smiled grimly. Tell your people that Earth stands with them. And we're just getting started. Across the galaxy, species that had lived under Cold Air domination for centuries began to whisper a new word: freedom. Major Nicole Webster crouched behind a fallen column as energy blasts struck the wall behind her. Operation Grim Harvest, the Alliance's most ambitious offensive, was underway across 17 Cold Air systems simultaneously. Team 2, status report, she whispered into her comm unit. In position at the central data hub, came the reply from Sergeant Paul Harris. Ready when you are. Webster signaled to her mixed team of human and Nithari special forces. They moved with practiced precision through the Cold Air military complex on Saltar Prime, a critical command center. Remember, our primary objective is intelligence, not destruction, Webster reminded them. We need their command codes and fleet deployments. The team advanced through flickering emergency lights. Most of the Cold Air forces had been drawn away by diversionary attacks elsewhere in the system. Only skeleton security remained. When they reached the central command room, Webster used a device developed by Alliance scientists to bypass the security protocols. The massive doors slid open. Inside, 3 Cold Air officers turned in surprise. Before they could reach their weapons, Webster's team had subdued them. Begin the download. she ordered. As her technical specialist connected to the Colder network, Webster interrogated the ranking officer. "Where is your high command located?" she demanded. The Colder's tentacles twitched in what Webster had learned was an expression of contempt. "You cannot hope to prevail against the Coalition. We have ruled this galaxy for millennia. Your rule is ending," Webster replied calmly. "Every day more worlds join us. Your own subject species are turning against you." "Major, you need to see this," called her specialist. "I've accessed their secure communications. It's bigger than we thought." The data revealed the location of the Koldar homeworld and their ruling council, information that had been hidden from even their own military commanders. It also contained complete records of their fleet deployments and defense systems. "Download everything," Webster ordered. "This could end the war." As her team worked, alerts began sounding throughout the facility. "Time to go," Webster said. "Plant the charges." They fought their way back to their extraction point, where Alliance ships waited in orbit. As they lifted off, Webster looked down at the Cold Air complex. The charges detonated, not destroying the facility but disabling its communications permanently. Aboard the Alliance flagship, Commander Ryan Turner studied the intelligence from Webster's mission. "This is it," he told the gathered Alliance leaders. "We now know the location of their homeworld, Koldar Prime. Their entire leadership is there." "Then we strike at once," said a Vril representative, mandibles clicking with anticipation. "End their dominion forever." Turner shook his head. "That would make us no better than them. I propose another approach." His plan was daring. Instead of destroying the Kuldur civilization, the Alliance would demonstrate its power by breaching their defenses, then offer terms for peace. "They respect only strength," Turner explained. "We must show them our strength, then our mercy. That will confuse them more than any weapon." The Alliance fleet assembled, the largest gathering of ships from different species ever seen in the galaxy. Human vessels flew alongside Nithari cruisers and Vril swarm ships. Even some liberated Koldar colonies had contributed forces to the cause. Using the stolen intelligence, they plotted a course through Koldar defense grids. Turner devised a strategy that exploited the rigid thinking of Koldar military doctrine. The fleet jumped into the Koldar home system in a pattern that scattered their forces. The Koldar responded exactly as Turner predicted, concentrating their defenses around their capital city. Then, using a technology developed by combining human ingenuity with Nithari physics, the Alliance ships performed a synchronized micro-jump, bypassing the defenses entirely and appearing in orbit above the Koldar ruling council chambers. The stunned Koldar leadership watched as Alliance ships filled their skies. Their vaunted defenses, the protection of thousands of years of military dominance, had failed in minutes. "Send the message," Turner ordered. Across the Koldar communication network, on every world in their empire, the same words appeared. "Your rule ends today, but your people need not." Turner looked out at the Koldar homeworld. "Now we see if they're wise enough to accept a future they don't control." Admiral Jack Hunter stood on the bridge of the Earth flagship Defiance as it orbited the Koldar homeworld. Behind him, ships from 24 Alliance species formed a protective ring. Below, in the Grand Assembly Hall of the Koldar capital, representatives from across the galaxy had gathered. "It's time," Hunter said to his communications officer. "Begin transmission to all systems." Hunter straightened his uniform and faced the camera. His message would reach every world in known space, translated into hundreds of languages. "People of the galaxy," he began, "today marks the end of the Koldar Coalition as you have known it. Their fleets have been defeated. Their homeworld stands undefended. On thousands of worlds, beings of all forms watched. Many had lived under Koldar rule for generations. Some had never imagined freedom. But we have not come to destroy," Hunter continued. "We are not conquerors. We are liberators." In the assembly hall, Koldar leaders shifted uncomfortably as Hunter's image towered above them. They had expected execution, not dialogue. 3 standard years ago, humanity learned that we were once hunted by the cold air. They called us reapers and feared what we might become. When they found us again, they attacked without provocation, expecting easy victory. Hunter paused, his expression firm, but not vengeful. They were wrong about us. Not because we aren't dangerous, we are, but because they misunderstood what truly makes humanity powerful. It isn't our weapons or our ships. It's our belief that all sentient beings deserve freedom and dignity. Representatives from Alliance worlds nodded in agreement. Even some Coldair seemed to listen with new attention. Today we establish the Galactic Concordat, Hunter announced. Its founding principle is self-determination for all species. The age of empire is over. The age of cooperation begins. The terms of the Concordat appeared on screens throughout the assembly hall. The Coldair would surrender their military capacity but retain governance of their homeworld. All subjugated species would determine their own futures. Technology and resources would be shared equally among member worlds. We do not seek to punish the Coldair people, Hunter explained, only to ensure they can never again threaten others. Any world that abides by the Concordat, including Coldair worlds, will find in humanity not enemies, but allies. The High Overseer of the Coldair rose from his seat. The assembly fell silent. For millennia, we have ruled, he said, his translated voice echoing through the hall. Why should we accept these terms when you could simply destroy us? Hunter's reply was calm, resolute. Because that is the difference between us. You conquered because you could. We refrain because we should. That restraint, not our weapons, is what makes us the reapers you feared. One by one, representatives approached to sign the Concordat. First came Alliance members, then neutral worlds, and finally, after long deliberation, the Coldair leadership. As the ceremony concluded, Captain Frank Miller, whose discovery had started everything, approached Admiral Hunter. When I found that ancient warning about cosmic reapers, I never imagined this outcome, Miller said. Hunter nodded. The Coldair were right to fear us, but for the wrong reasons. They feared we would do to them what they did to others. They couldn't conceive of power used for protection rather than control. The two men looked out at the stars visible through the viewport, once empty and unknown, now filled with worlds and peoples joined in a fragile but hopeful alliance. So what are we now? Miller asked. Peacekeepers. Reluctant guardians, Hunter replied. The Coldair called us reapers as a curse. We've turned it into a promise. We will reap tyranny and oppression wherever we find it, but allow civilizations to flourish. As the Defiance prepared to depart, signals came in from across the galaxy, worlds celebrating their first days of freedom, species meeting each other without Coldair interference, ancient enemies beginning tentative dialogues. The galaxy was waking up to a new reality. And humanity, once hunted and forgotten, had found its place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as the defenders they had always had the potential to become. The Reapers had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same. 5 years had passed since the signing of the Galactic Concordat. Captain Frank Miller, now Admiral Miller, stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station. The massive space platform orbited a neutral point between Earth, Coldair Prime, and Nith Eri space. Below him, representatives from 87 worlds moved through the Grand Concourse. Some floated on gravity disks, others crawled on multiple legs, a few existed as shimmering energy patterns. Yet all were equal members of the new galactic community. Quite a sight, isn't it? Said a voice behind him. Miller turned to see Laura Chen, Earth's chief diplomat to the Concordat Council. Sometimes I still can't believe it, Miller admitted. When I found that ancient archive, I thought we were headed for extinction. Not this. Chen smiled. You should join the celebration. The 5-year anniversary of the Concordat is partly your doing after all. Miller followed her to the main chamber where Alliance leaders had gathered. Admiral Hunter was there, speaking with the Nith Eri High Speaker. Commander Ryan Turner chatted with a group of young Coldar scientists. Even Major Webster had come, though she looked uncomfortable in formal attire. Not everyone celebrated. In the corner, Miller noticed a delegation of Coldar traditionalists. They had accepted the Concordat, but reluctantly. They still believed in the old ways. "Admiral Miller," said a deep voice. Miller turned to face Vextor, once a Coldar military commander, now their representative to the council. "I had hoped to speak with you." "Of course," Miller replied cautiously. "You humans continue to surprise us," Vextor said. "When we suffered food shortages last season, your ships were first to bring aid. When the Vril plague threatened our colonies, your doctors worked tirelessly to find a cure." "That's what allies do," Miller said simply. Vextor's tentacles moved in what Miller now recognized as thoughtful consideration. "For millennia, we believed power came from domination. You have shown us another path." The lights dimmed as Admiral Hunter approached the central podium. The assembled beings quieted. 5 years ago, Hunter began. Many doubted this alliance would last a single rotation. Some predicted humanity would become the new tyrants. Others believed ancient hatreds would tear us apart. Hunter gestured to the diverse gathering. "Instead, we have built something unprecedented. Trade between worlds has doubled. Scientific cooperation has led to breakthroughs in medicine, agriculture, and space travel. Former enemies now work together to solve common problems." Miller noticed even the Coldar traditionalists listening attentively. "But our work is not complete," Hunter continued. "Beyond our borders, there are still those who rule through fear. There are species suffering under oppression. There are worlds where freedom remains only a dream." Hunter's voice grew stronger. The name Reaper was once meant to frighten. Now, throughout the galaxy, it brings hope. When the oppressed whisper, "The Reapers are coming," tyrants tremble. After the ceremony, Miller walked through the botanical gardens where plants from dozens of worlds grew together. He found Dr. Olivia Russell there, studying a flowering vine from a distant moon. "I heard we've detected signals from beyond the outer rim," Russell said. "New civilizations, perhaps, or new threats." Miller nodded. "The Council has approved an expedition. They want me to lead it. Are you going to accept?" Miller looked out at the stars. 5 years ago, humanity had been alone, ignorant of its past, uncertain of its future. Now they stood at the center of a growing alliance, guardians of peace across thousands of worlds. "Yes," he said, "whatever's out there, they should know who we are. Not just humans, but all of us. They should know that in this part of the galaxy, freedom is protected." Russell smiled. "And if they're hostile, then they'll learn why the Coldar call us Reapers." As Miller left the garden, he passed a group of children, human, Coldar, Nithari, and others, playing together without fear or prejudice. That, he thought, was humanity's greatest achievement. Not victory in war, but the peace that followed. The Reapers had found their true purpose, not to end life, but to ensure it thrived in freedom across the stars.